Hi and welcome back. I have a guest and I've had so many purple hearts on my Instagram because this is Michelle of, go on, tell everybody
Labmuffinbeautyscience.
Labmuffinbeautyscience is the perfect blend of science, fun, incredible beauty and myth busting. And the reason I got the purple emojis is because Michelle is famous for trying to make her hair go all shades, but mainly purple. And I basically put a question out on Instagram and I just said, any questions you want to ask, if you want to bust some skincare myths, bust some beauty myths. Michelle is incredibly smart. She's got a PhD in chemistry and she dabbles in beauty, but in a really serious way because she's a serious beauty aficionado. Welcome.
Thanks, Nadine. You're too nice.
She's also on her way to Cannes. London is just a mere drop off on the way to Cannes because she's doing basically a beauty tour, aren't you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so exciting. Anyway, so we got all your questions. We thought we'd bust some myths. You know me, I'm firmly in the science works. I want to know what works. And I spend all my life researching beauty via brilliant people like Michelle because they're the real smarts in this world, basically. I'm just faking it till I can make it.
That's such a lie. That is such a lie. Anyway.
Tell me about your PhD.
So I did my PhD. I finished my PhD in 2013.
Yeah.
It was in organic chemistry. Specifically, it was in sort of medicinal. It's really hard to say what it was in because I think every PhD just ends up being in like 50 different areas. You just sort of go where the research takes you. So it was partly organic. It was partly synthetic, which is like when you make the actual molecules. It was partly medicinal, which is when you test the molecules on like cell lines and stuff like that and see what it can do. And it was partly supramolecular, which is when molecules bind together without actually binding, which is a bit confusing, but it's like when when different chemicals interact with each other.
So the question is, why aren't you Dr. Labmuffinbeautyscience?
Well, I am, but I feel like it's a bit weird because then people ask you medical questions.
Luckily enough, Michelle loves cats because Yogi obviously just wants to take part now. Can you just sit down, actually? No? Oh no, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's right fine. There, yeah. No, come here. Come here. You funny thing. We bonded over our love of science, our love of cats, our love of tabby cats, and our love of beauty products. There you go. So, it's now a three-way, this video. Tell me why you love beauty.
I think I mostly got into beauty when I was a PhD student because you don't have that much money and you want to buy things that work. And also I really like sleeping in, so I think that's why I got into skincare, because then you can wake up and you don't have to deal with makeup as much. You can wake up a bit later.
So your aim in life is the same as my aim in life, which is to find skincare products and beauty products that work.
Yeah.
For me, it's always about minimum effort, maximum result.
Me too, yeah. So I'm massively big into convenience. So yeah, every time I review a product, I'm like, if it's in a pump bottle, I'm probably going to like it.
I think if it cuts a step out of my routine, if it gives me another 10 minutes in bed.
Yeah.
And even if it gives me a sort of I don't filter or face tune, but even if it gives me a filter or face tune in real life, I'm happy. That's what I want.
I'm not groping Nadine, by the way. I'm groping the cat.
She's groping. I feel like I need to get my legs up so you can see she's got, there you go, little and he's absolutely in heaven. No, go. Okay, go. Bye. Right. Sorry, he's shedding. You're going to be sneezing forever now. Right. Bearing in mind at this point, I'm going to drop in some of Michelle's merchandise. Sorry. Is natural better?
Not necessarily. So it's natural and synthetic. There's not that much of a line between them. So anything that's natural, you can theoretically make synthetically, which is actually the aim of a lot of chemistry. So a lot of chemistry, it's like you go into the jungle, you pick off a piece of tree, you discover that this piece of tree can treat cancer, but there's not enough tree to treat all the cancer. So what you have to do is you have to get a synthetic chemist to remake the molecules so that people can get their cancer treated without it costing $1 trillion every time. So yeah, theoretically anything can be made in a lab. And so the idea of natural and synthetic isn't really a useful definition because
it's a marketing term, isn't it?
It is mostly marketing, yeah. So there are lots of studies which show that psychologically, which you would know since you have a psychology background.
I do, yeah.
when people think of the word natural, they get happy, which is nice because, like, as humans, we evolve with nature. We want to go out. We want to see green stuff. Having green stuff makes us happy. Having plants makes us happy. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it works better or that it's safer. So the most toxic things are all natural. Nature is amazing at killing us. There's like pufferfish toxin.
Yeah.
There's all these really nasty chemicals which are not synthetic.
Also, Michelle is from Australia, if you could ascertain that. So she knows about a few toxic things that you can... You have stonefish, spiders, you know.
Yeah, blue-ringed octopus.
Oh, I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah.
This is the... I mean, I'm just loving this. Natural is not always safe. I always think as well, you think of things like poison oak.
Poison ivy.
Poison
hay
ivy.
fever. I have terrible hay fever.
I have terrible hay fever. And that's completely natural and makes me feel absolutely awful. I also think of most of the actives that we talk about. So we talk about things like salicylic acid derived from tree barks. But you can't go around stripping acres and acres and acres of trees.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you need to
And it's really bad for the
them.
environment.
Yes.
Like, I think a lot of the time people assume that natural means it's good for the environment. But most of the time it's not, because you have to take it from the environment.
Yes.
It's a lot better if you make it out of like petrochemical waste products, which were going to get chucked into the environment anyway. So now really you're recycling it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. Okay, is skincare ever toxic?
It
Commercially available skincare?
These days, no, because companies don't want to kill you because otherwise they lose a customer.
Yeah.
It just makes no commercial sense. So back in the day, before people really understood things like toxins, then you had like lead and face powders and stuff like that. But these days we know this stuff a lot better. Like we can run tests on stuff. We can run tests on cells. We can run tests on animals, although not so much anymore. But so we have a lot more data. We understand how human bodies react to different things a lot more. And so there's just no point putting toxic things in skincare products, even if it costs less, which it doesn't.
No, I always say, it's very interesting. I always say, when people say, oh, but God, the big conglomerates, they're trying to poison us. And I say, the people that formulate these products have families. They're mothers and fathers, and they have children and brothers and sisters, and they're not evil scientists from a Bond movie in 1960.
Yeah.
They're just decent human beings doing a job and trying to make the world safer most of the time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's marketing. That's that conspiracy theory where I think all formulating scientists, and especially people with PhDs in chemistry, are like Bond villains trying to take over the world.
I wish. That would be great.
So let's go through some ingredients that get a bad rap. Are silicons bad for the skin?
I've never seen anything that shows that they are. I'm not sure how it came about. It's probably part of this whole natural is better. Although really silicones aren't all that unnatural either.
No.
Like, it's derived from sand, which has tons of silicon dioxide in it. So I think
it might have started. Now, we had a little conversation before we started filming, because Michelle has got the most beautiful hair and she colours it and bleaches it, and yet it doesn't appear to be damaged.
Oh, it is so damaged.
I asked for some advice because my hair is massively damaged, and we mentioned amodimethicone, and I said, oh, that's interesting. That's obviously a silicon. Dimethicone is a silicon, and it's a silicon with a positive charge on it. So I just had a quick chemistry lesson, and I think silicons originally got the bad rap because when they were originally 20 years ago, they made your hair feel greasy and they weighed your hair down. And I feel in skincare that people think they're occlusive and that they pill off under products, but whether they're bad for skin?
Not really. Like, I just don't think there's any evidence that they are. I think maybe just like any other ingredient, like some people's skin just doesn't like it. Like, you just don't like it. Like, a lot of people love coconut oil, and a lot of people find that it just breaks them out massively. A lot of people like mineral oil, and other people find that breaks them out. So I think it's just another one of those things where it depends on your skin, it depends on what you're using it with, what you're using it in. But like, silicones are one of them. Almost every liquid foundation on the market contains a ton of silicones, and everyone uses liquid foundation. And like, no one ever questions whether it's a bad thing in your foundation. So in skincare, like, it's not that big of a difference. It's still on your skin. There's still not that much in between your skin and it. So yeah, I think it's just...
And is it true that they're quite large molecules? So they tend to sit on the surface of the skin anyway. So they're sort of not penetrating the skin, so what are you worried about?
Yeah, they're not going to go in. I could think one of the things that people are worried about is that it's occlusive, it won't get washed off or whatever.
They're going to get spots, they're going to get, it's comedogenic, something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, that can happen with any ingredient, depending on your skin.
Yeah, okay. Parabens. Let's do the parabens talk.
Oh, parabens. Okay, so I actually came from In Cosmetics, which is a big conference in Paris, which
and
very exciting.
I said to Michelle, she was doing the best stories, and I said, your In Cosmetics, which is about the ingredients found in cosmetics, your In Cosmetics stories is my porn.
It's such an interesting conference.
I was just eating up your stories.
It was amazing. I talked to so many people from like the really big cosmetic ingredient manufacturers. So I talked to a bunch of people from BASF, which is amazing. Like head of sun care at BASF, like he knows everything about sunscreen. I asked him every single question I could think of, and he just answered them immediately. It was amazing. I can't even remember what we were talking about anymore.
We were talking about parabens.
Parabens, yes. So I think a lot of cosmetic formulators have just given up on parabens now because
consumers don't want them.
Exactly.
They're so biased against them. I remember years ago interviewing Liz Earle, who is was originally the queen of natural skincare, and she said, I've got nothing against parabens. Parabens are completely safe. I took them out of my products just because my customers didn't want them.
Yeah, so it's pretty unfortunate. The reason it's so unfortunate is because they are really, really good preservatives. They're extremely good in really low concentrations, which is important because if you have sensitive skin, a lot of the time preservatives are the things that will irritate your skin. So the less you can use, the better. And parabens were great for that, except now there's this big issue where people think they're not so great. I think the problems with parabens were mostly, there was a concern that they would have hormonal effects. But a lot of the studies, it's like you would have to use an awful lot to have any sort of effect.
You'd have to be eating tubs of moisturiser every single day.
Exactly, yeah.
Parabens are found in nature as well.
Yeah.
And in food.
Yeah. So that, or like things that are incredibly similar to parabens, so similar that it's almost the same thing. So they're just really good in low concentrations. We know so much about parabens as well in terms of their health effects and in terms of like their toxicity because they've been researched to death. We've been using them for decades. So the problem with the new replacements for parabens, because you can't have an unpreserved product because then you're smearing bacteria on your skin, you're going to get like infections. The problem with the new ones is that there's a lot less information on whether or not they have hormonal effects. And I think the fact that there's this lack of data makes people feel more comfortable with using them, which shouldn't be the case. It's sort of like better the devil you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think in an ideal world, we'd love to find a system that doesn't need preservatives. But have you seen the way humans use their products? I mean, I like an airtight container, but most people love a tub of cream left on a shelf above a toilet system. And then they flush the toilet. And I mean, it's just crazy. Also, I spoke to a dermatologist the other day that says that she's convinced that mild bacterial infections of the skin are on the rise because of poorly preserved skincare.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So things like perioral dermatitis, which is a mild bacterial. So basically, when your barrier function is just a bit what's the word I'm looking for? Compromised. Thank you. It's just a bit compromised. Then the bacteria in a product, because obviously most products are a perfect oil-water mix, which bacteria love. Then the bacteria can get in, and they were saying they're seeing a lot more increased sensitivity and mild bacterial infections that aren't dangerous and can be easily treated if you get to see a GP or a dermatologist. But they're convinced that's because of poorly preserved products.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Right, this is a great question. Okay, so Michelle ran through these before and basically said, this is such an interesting question. What skincare actives don't work together? Because there appears to be this myth going around about certain products can't be layered that come from the brands, but it doesn't really make sense.
I don't think I can't actually think of any skincare actives that are absolute things that you can't mix together. Like there's things like retinol, theoretically, the way that it converts on your skin to retinoic acid, it happens better at a higher pH. And so there's a theory that if you mix it with an acid, then it won't work as well. But it's not like it completely inactivates it. It's just, it might work a bit slower. My
argument always with retinol and acids is a sensitivity issue but from my point of view, if you have a really powerful vitamin C or a really powerful retinol, there's always going to be a risk of irritation.
Exactly.
So don't double your risk. So I always say vitamin C during the day, retinol at night, or if you're using a really high, those thick paste, sort of 25% that are trying to treat melasma vitamin C's, I always say just put them on one area and use retinol on the rest of your face. If you layer them up or you layer acids, I just think you risk irritation. And irritation's bad for your skin, whatever. Now, you see, Michelle is the queen of SPFs. She's just spoken to the man at BASF. She knows everything about SPFs. What's the biggest SPF myth?
The biggest one, probably that they're not good for you.
That they're in some way. We had a GP on TV the other day saying that physical SPFs, i.e. the
zinc oxide, titanium
dioxide, can cause cancer on broken skin. Because it irradiates. He was talking about what was he talking about? He was talking about heavy metals. It was so scary.
I've recently discovered that heavy metals are like everything that's heavier than sodium, so including like iron, which is
iron oxide
in your blood. So technically, anyway.
Also, surely the risk, even the smallest risk of using an SPF, outweighs the huge risk of getting skin cancer, which in your country is such
ridiculous.
a problem.
I think it's like 2/3 of people will get skin cancer before they're 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, sorry, what's the biggest SPF myth?
Probably the fact that it's worse for your health than not wearing SPF, which is just silly.
And the vitamin D thing.
Yeah, the vitamin D thing. Yeah. So, you say vitamin in this.
I know you say vitamin.
So all the research that's been done on actual humans putting on sunscreen like they normally would and not like having it carefully layered on by a scientist in a lab with a scale, all of them have found that you don't end up vitamin D deficient. So most of the vitamin D deficiency seems to come from like absolute sun avoidance by people who are trying to avoid the sun for various health reasons, like if they're taking some sort of phototoxic medication.
Or they live, I've just come back from Lapland, where for 6 months of the year the sun barely shines. And you're freezing, so you're completely covered up. They have a massive vitamin D
I'm so jealous
deficiency.
of your trip. It looked amazing.
It was huskies, I know, they're like the cats of the dog world anyway. So do you supplement with vitamin D?
I do in winter. Every once in a while I supplement in the summer as well because I feel like I haven't been outside as much. So the general advice in Australia at least is when the UV level is less than 3 in the middle of the day, you shouldn't wear sunscreen and you should go outside for 15 minutes and try to get some sun. Plus you should take a vitamin D supplement, possibly get your blood levels checked. I believe in the UK, the advice is get your blood levels checked and almost everyone will probably need to supplement with vitamin D.
Yeah, in the UK, the government, it's the only supplement that everybody is supposed to take regularly. And I like the Deluxe, the oral one that you can spray, the little minty one. Pick that up at the chemist before you leave.
I will.
It's much easier to take. It's just quite nice. So you just said when the UV index is less than 3, you don't need...
In the middle of the day,
Okay.
And then when it's above, you should be wearing sunscreen. I believe the advice is all over your body. I'm pretty lazy.
I cannot believe you're lazy.
I have to wake up early.
You live in Sydney, and 2, you're Asian, and all of my Asian girlfriends are obsessed with using SPF. Yeah. Because obviously I get old and wrinkled, you get pigmentation.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never ever get a line, but you'll get pigmentation.
Yeah, well, it's starting to get some. They're coming thick and fast.
31 looks about 15, honestly, please. So I'm quite lackadaisical, but then I'm a 56-year-old woman and I've spent a lot of... I grew up in the 70s and 80s when nobody wore SPFs.
You don't look 56, by the way.
But thank you. Skincare works. It really does. My argument is always, if you are in the UK on a day like today when the UV index is probably... I mean, it's been raining, probably 1 or 2 at the most, even though it's the beginning of April. My argument is if you're in most of the time, then an SPF in your makeup would be more than enough. Just don't forget your chest. But also, my simple advice is don't lie out in the sun. That's the key. Like, literally don't sunbathe. That's all I can say to you. Don't be frightened if the sun comes out and you want to go out for a bit of lunch, just stand in the shade, put an SPF on properly, reapply it. But the truth is, just don't lie in the sun, which is the mistake my generation did. In white thongs in the south of France.
They still do that though.
You pay the price. Oh God, Brits abroad, have you seen them?
Australians, you go to the beach and there's always a really leathery person. Like you can spot them, like everyone knows them.
Without retinol, vitamin C and laser, that would be me, can I just say. Is vegan skincare better for you?
I don't think so. I've actually seen some arguments that non-vegan skincare is better because it matches your skin.
Your biology.
Yeah. So there's like a couple of companies that make like beef tallow moisturizers, which have like the same sorts of fatty acids that you have in your skin. I think also plant oils versus animal oils. A lot of plant oils have unsaturated bonds. So these are like double bonds and stuff like that. And these, they can oxidize easily and they can turn into free radicals. And so the argument is like, like squalene and squalane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same idea. When you have double bonds, it's more likely to cause free radical damage. So there's an argument that non-vegan is actually better. So I don't think vegan skincare is a question of whether it's more effective. I think it's more of a question of what your ethics are.
What your ethics are, yeah. So when you say animal-derived oils, you would talk about something like...
stearic acid.
Stearic acid, yeah. Some of the fatty alcohols that are derived from dairy products or something like that. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. Next question, oils good or bad for the skin? Because you will, I've just come back from AMWC, you will not find a dermatologist that recommends oils. There is this huge divide in the industry, whereas the dermatologists and the skin doctors tend to say, don't put an oil in your routine. And you've got a whole host of facial therapists, stroke brands that are obsessed with getting you to use oils.
I think it's sort of like, I think it's partly a hangover from the days when people assumed that oils would be comedogenic. So that's why a lot of dermatologist brands have like oil free. Well, they replace the oil with silicones instead. But I think some of it is also the fact that I think a lot of people who probably aren't as into skincare as us, when they pick an oil, they pick something with essential oils. And dermatologists hate essential oils.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think with most normal people, a little bit of essential oils is fine. It's just that dermatologists see the people with the most sensitive skin out of everyone. And for them, essential oils are a massive no-no because they're just full of allergens. So again, with allergens, like if you're not allergic, then it's fine in small amounts. In larger amounts, it might be irritating. But yeah, so I think that's where...
So you think it comes from essential oils. Okay, so what are your 3 favourite skin-friendly oils?
Personally, I have oily skin, so I like the ones with more like linoleic acid because they tend to be a bit lighter. So my favourites are probably rosehip oil. Australians are obsessed with rosehip oil. I always recommend, if I say to somebody, I've got really well-balanced skin, I don't really use an oil that much, but the one I keep on my side always is rosehip oil. Yeah, it's got like a tiny, tiny bit of tretinoin in it.
Yes.
Yeah, which is
like
always
nature's
like
mother, Mother Nature's retinol, but
really weak.
A really low level.
Yeah.
So it's rosehip oil?
Rosehip oil. I've been trying out a bit more hemp seed oil lately as well.
Okay,
since,
that's
like,
the hottest
CBD.
ingredient. Yeah. Kiehl's have just launched one.
Oh.
Yeah. It's so light. Yeah, it's amazing. Ready? Right. Can affordable skincare ever be as good as clinical skincare? And by clinical skincare, I mean expensive skincare you get from a clinic.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of the time, the clinical skincare things, it's just marketing.
Yeah.
There's no restrictions on any sort of ingredient that goes into like a drugstore product versus a clinical product. And in terms of price, ingredients are not that expensive. Ingredients are not the bulk of the expense of a product. I was talking to a cosmetic chemist and he was saying like if it costs more than $1 for all the ingredients in a product, it's too much. Even $1 is pushing it. And so we're buying products for like $30 or whatever. So $1 will be ingredients, the rest of it will be packaging, marketing, shipping, sales,
advertising,
yeah,
hiring the supermodel to present it. It's very interesting because one thing that has happened since you graduated is what I call the revolution in skincare, which is The Ordinary came along, and then the Inky List came along, and all these brands and Good Molecule and all these brands who basically stripped back everything back to the basics.
Yeah.
And I think sadly missed. Brandon, thank you for creating a revolution in skincare, because I think it's super exciting. And some of those products, they're no frills. You're not going to get that sense of luxury, but why not save money? I always say to people, when in doubt, they always say to me, should I use this product or this product? And I say, buy according to your budget.
Yeah.
Just never get into debt, never put skincare on a credit card, please don't. Best active ingredient for puffy eyes or under eye dark circles.
I would also like to know.
Oh God, me too. I do love the Inculus caffeine eye cream.
Yeah, I've heard, so caffeine, the ones that I've heard have evidence, caffeine, anything that thickens your skin, so things like tretinoin, if your under eye area can handle it. Yes, I think there's also a thing where you're meant to work out what is causing the under eye circles.
Lack of sleep, pigmentation.
Allergies as well.
Allergies.
Yeah, so I've been meaning to go get immunology. I've been putting it off because I am deathly allergic to my cats. It's terrible. I've gotten better, I think, just from living with them, but when we first got them, Leia, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. So we got the cats from a fellow beauty blogger who is also a cat vet. And the first time we met them, I left covered in hives. And my sister and I were like, we love them. How are we going to hide your hives so that Leia can let us have them? I was sneezing on the way home. I was driving as well. So I was just sneezing while driving and like scratching my
Risking
face.
everybody's lives.
Yeah, just for my little truffle and button.
Does non-comedogenic really mean anything?
Not really. So depending on what the ingredient is, if it's mixed with other things, it tends to behave completely differently on your skin. So there's some studies where they took the same ingredient and then they tested it at different concentrations, and as you diluted it, it went from comedogenic to like not. So in most products we have more than 3 ingredients, so everything's going to be massively diluted. So I don't think it really means anything unless you're using something. It's sort of more like a gambling sort of thing. If it says it's non-comedogenic, it's more likely to be non-comedogenic on your skin, but you can never really tell.
Okay, so it's not a bad thing to buy something that's non-comedogenic.
Yeah, but it's not
there's
any
no
sort of
guarantees.
guarantee.
Yeah. Okay, right. Do LED masks work?
I would also like to know.
No, that's another one. Now, you see, I've had them in clinics at Kate Somerville's in LA and in UK. Whether the home ones work that cost sort of around £100, I'm not so sure. But I do know people that swear by the ones that cost about £4,000. Like in LA, they're huge.
I think the only light therapy definitely works. I think the only question is whether or not the LEDs are putting out a high enough intensity and whether they're putting out the right wavelength. And I think that would depend on the individual mask. So you would have to go and test it.
Yeah. I think it's all about how much it costs as well.
Yeah.
I've asked a lot of people who run clinics like Kate Somerville, and she said the home ones you buy for a couple of $100, just they don't have the
enough.
They don't have the intensity
lights
that you need. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this will come from somebody in Asia, I'm sure. But would you rather use hyaluronic acid serum or hydrating toners?
I personally, for my skin, I find that hyaluronic acid is overrated. But it's just
that's fascinating.
I know I'm very unique in this. I find that glycerin works better. My dream is hyaluronic acid and then top it with glycerin. Yeah, glycerin's amazing.
Glycerin is such an underrated ingredient. Tonight, we're going to go off and have supper with Sally Hughes. Sally Hughes has clinically dry skin. Glycerin is her favourite ingredient.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's small enough that it gets deep into your skin. And there's also like some evidence that I think it opens up aquaporins in your skin. And so like it can burrow water deep into your skin. It has all these properties.
That's why I like to use the hyaluronic acid with the glycerin on the top.
Yeah, so you have like...
Also, hyaluronic acid can be dry and tight. If it's single molecular, it can be a bit sort of like this. And I think you just put the glycerin on and it's just like, it soothes your skin. It's one of those old-fashioned ingredients that's been around forever. And I just think, don't overlook it. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, talking of which, I've just put here top 5 because I love the fact that, as a general rule, explain what top 5 means.
Okay, so most of the time, if you look at an ingredients list, if you're looking for something that has like a bulk sort of effect on your skin. So it's not so there are some actives that work at really low concentrations, but if you're looking for a bulk sort of effect, the top 5 ingredients will give you a good idea of what the product will be like.
So if you're looking for, say, a peptide, you would want it in your first 5 ingredients, would you?
Depends on the peptide. So there are some that work at really low concentrations. It's nothing straightforward. Yeah, so there are some ingredients that work at low percentages. So depending on the peptide, if it's a low percentage, then it might be lower on the ingredients list and still be fine.
What would you look for in the top 5 then?
So for skincare products, glycerin, my favorite.
Hyaluronic acid works at a lower percentage, doesn't
exactly.
it?
Yeah, so usually you'll see it near the bottom of the ingredients list.
Yeah.
In fact, if you put it up too high, it's just like honey.
Yeah, it's too viscous, isn't it?
Nasty stuff.
Retinol also works at a lower
percentage,
doesn't it?
Retinol, retinaldehyde, tretinoin, all of those would be low, and that's where you want them.
Yes.
So yeah, bulk things like glycerin, any sort of oil.
Any oils, I was going to say. So things like safflower oil or any of those, and rosehip oil. If it is a rosehip oil, you want rosehip to be in the first 5 ingredients. Water is normally the first for most things, unless it's a pure oil, obviously. Best age to start tretinoin, and I instantly want to bust the myth about age and skincare, but you first.
There's no best age. Like, tretinoin is a really, really good active for treating acne as well. And so acne, like the peak time is early 20s, even teens. So yeah, there's no best age to start, probably as early as you can, as long as you're using a sunscreen as well, and as long as you're not overly irritating your skin.
Yeah. For me, I always say, and it's one of my skincare heroes is Paula Began of Paula's Choice, and she said to me, skin is ageless. No, my stomach rumbles terribly too. We're going out for dinner straight after this. Skin is absolutely ageless in the sense that you can have acne at any age, you can have sun damage at any age, you can have dehydration at any age. You can't sort of have sagging and wrinkles at any age, but you can get it in your 30s or you can delay it till you're in your 60s or 70s. So it's about your skin type and your skin concerns. It really is. Best actives for redness and sensitivity.
So what did I write in my notes? Niacinamide.
I am such a fan of niacinamide.
Niacinamide is so good.
Do you know, have you heard of a UK dermatologist called Sam Bunting?
Yes, I bought her cleanser.
Okay.
Yes.
So she has a moisturiser with 5% niacinamide.
Oh wow, that's
I know.
Really good. There's actually a skincare brand in Australia called Sunsense. They make sunscreens, and all their sunscreens have 2%, except for like 1 or 2. But yeah, 2% niacinamide across the range.
Because it works as an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, and they've actually found that it reduces the development of cancer as well, like skin cancer.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
The Olay group are huge into niacinamide, and they were working with pro-retinols and niacinamide. And when I spoke to the formulating chemist, they said, we put pro-retinol on everything, but actually it's the niacinamide that's doing the groundwork there. It really is.
It just does everything.
Yeah. And then you put oatmeal, which I also like as well.
Oatmeal.
Aveeno. Can we hear it for Aveeno? What a great range.
They're so good. So oatmeal, like, it's been around forever. They use it in hospitals for treating things like rashes and chickenpox. Amazing. You can just make it yourself. You can just grind up some oatmeal and make a mask. So it's got avenethramides, which is where the name Aveeno
comes from.
Yeah, so they're anti-inflammatory. It's also got beta-glucan, which is like really, really moisturizing. It's just like a really good, basic, soothing ingredient. It's not so hip anymore, but it is great.
It's like glycerin. People have forgotten about it. It's not fashionable, but it doesn't mean to say it doesn't work. Right, we've already answered that. SPF for cloudy days.
Yes, wear it.
But not if the UV index is below 3.
I would say always wear it on your face.
Okay.
Just because so many of us are using like photosensitizing things like tretinoin and like alpha hydroxy acids. It's just safe to save your face.
Also, do they protect you from if you've used a physical blot, does it protect you from the dreaded blue light?
I believe there's some evidence that it protects a tiny bit, but the best ingredient seems to be iron oxide, which is in foundation.
Yes.
There's not that much blue light coming out of your phone compared to like from the sun.
No.
Like, it's really sunlight that's the culprit for blue light damage.
And also, I always say, and I always say this, and I normally say this when I've got a naked face, is I have worn either a mineral-based sunscreen or a mineral-based foundation with an SPF in it every day for the last 25 years, and I have minimum sun damage. And then you get down here and I've got maximum sun damage. That is just makeup. It's not about sunbathing. That is literally the day-to-day aggression of low level in the UK UVA and UVB, and it's basically no sun damage, no sun. Then I stop putting my makeup here, and it gets more and more sun damage. I'm living proof. I remember back in the day we used to go to a Pittsburgh launch, and there was a formulating chemist that had put an SPF on his hand every day and not on his other hand, just to prove a point. And I remember thinking he was a little old man, and he was probably only my age at the time. But anyway, I'm living proof. But instead of doing it this way, I do it this way. Okay, tubs of creams or airtight containers?
I don't think for most things it makes a difference.
Okay.
So there's a big thing about tubs of cream being unhygienic.
Yeah.
I guess you can see the little bits of dust in it, which makes it a bit grosser. But in terms of oxidation, very few things will oxidize. So I guess if you have things like vitamin A, vitamin C, then having an airtight container is really important. But for most things, the tub will be preserved. Like the reason they preserve it, they'll put enough preservatives in it to deal with like the worst case scenario, which is like
a dirty old finger.
Dirty old fingers.
After you've just cuddled your cat.
Losing the lid, leaving it in your bathroom open.
Guilty. As I have to say, my favourite thing about Drunk Elephant is the push action.
I love it too, yeah.
I'm not generally a fan of the products, although I do like the polyprotein protein cream and peptide cream, but I just love that.
The pump jars are amazing.
Yeah.
They're my absolute favourite.
I love that, and I also like when you use a micellar or an eye makeup remover. I want the professional pump. Yes. I want the professional pump. You can buy them. I know, it's so good. So they used to be something that was just used at the back basin by therapists, and now we can have them, and I love them. You see, you're my you're a baby me essentially. Okay, this is a really good one. Best Aussie skincare buys.
I feel like Australia probably sunscreen.
Yeah.
Buying sunscreens.
What's your favourite all-time easy-to-use super lightweight SPF?
My favourite is Ultraceuticals Daily Moisturiser, but it is so pricey.
How much is so pricey?
I think it's something like in the realm of 70 something.
Yeah. Why are really good SPFs? Because I love the SkinCeuticals ones. They're so much money.
I think it is partly the fact that they have proper scientists and they do run proper clinical trials, or they try to do proper things.
SPFs, even to get an SPF rating, costs so much money.
Yeah.
So
So I think that's partly it.
Is it? And it's a physical block, is it?
It is it's a chemical sunscreen.
Okay.
But it's got Tinosorb S, which is my favourite active of all time so far. Apparently they're not making more sunscreen actives.
No, you know why, don't you? Because you can't test on animals anymore.
Yeah, animal testing ban. So
one of the reasons that some of the classic ingredients like vitamin C, and a skincare scientist told me, vitamin C, retinol are being pushed back into the market is because they can't develop new products because they can't test on animals. Yeah. So, I mean, I love my animals. I don't want animal testing. But as a result, you pay a price. Like there are a certain level of active ingredients, and there will be no more. Yeah. I mean, L'Oreal are trying their hardest. They have a form of fake skin that they're trying to replicate, which is a company called Episkin, which is really clever. In fact, you'd love to go to the Episkin lab in the south of France. But yes, absolutely, it's just one of those things. So your favourite ingredient is?
Favourite sunscreen ingredient? Tinosorb S.
I love the fact that that's just your favourite ingredient, full stop. You said a minute ago, and I love that.
Pretty much.
Favourite retinols?
Favourite retinols? I don't really use retinol anymore. I use tretinoin, which is like the prescription version. Because in Australia, if you buy the generic version, it's actually cheaper than every other retinol.
What percentage tret are you using?
I'm using, I'm going to say the wrong one. I think it's 0.05.
Okay, that's the medium one. So there's 0.025, 0.05 and 0.1.
Yeah.
I've never made it above 0.025. Do you peel?
I do, but I dilute it heaps. So I dilute it.
How do you dilute it?
I use the little pump jar.
Yeah.
Squeeze like the tiniest amount of tret on it, like maybe like quarter pea size, like teeny tiny amount. Add some oil to it and then just mix it up and then put it on my face.
Using a rosehip oil with it or?
I did use rosehip oil in the past. I think right now I'm using the Zellen's Power D.
Okay.
But yeah, just any sort of oil, just mix it up and then like do the thing where you dot it and then spread it.
Because I always used to say that trying to put a pea-size amount, because most tret comes in quite a dry gel oil formulation, and
It doesn't spread.
And it doesn't spread. And next thing you know, your pea size amount has just gone on your forehead around your
Yeah.
eyes, and then your face is going to fall off. And people always say to me, should I layer it with anything, including some of the 1% retinols that are available on the market and the retinols as well. And I always say, yes, if you want to slow the delivery into the skin, why not? And also to make it more hydrating.
Yeah.
So
I used to put
that.
oil. I used to put oil all over and then put the pea and then like slide it around.
Yeah.
It's like lubricating my tret.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. Does your skin detox when you start using things like acids or retinols, or I guess that we're talking about that breakout phase.
Purging,
the purging.
Yeah, so if you're using something that increases your skin turnover, which is how fast your skin layers come to the top, then purging can happen because like all the deep acne is coming up faster.
So what does a purge look like?
Generally, what will happen is you're going to get more pimples in places where you already get pimples.
Okay.
Sometimes you will get slightly more pimples in places where you don't get pimples as well, because a lot of the time these are like inflammatory ingredients, and inflammation is one of the ingredients for a breakout.
Okay.
But it should go away after you use it for about 4 to 8 weeks.
4 to 8 weeks.
Somewhere around that, yeah.
Quite a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, if you can't handle it, you can just use it slower, and if you use it slowly enough, it shouldn't purge very much.
Okay. So you could essentially not use an active ingredient every day. You start once a week, build up to twice a week, which is what I always say you should do with Tret. Your 3 must-have skin products.
Tret.
Okay. So a prescription strength tretinoin cream at 0.05%.
Yeah, yeah. So the other thing I really like about Tret is, apart from the fact it's got all the evidence behind it, is that if it's a medication, it's regulated as a medication.
Yeah.
So it has to work. It has to contain 0.05%. So it has to have the same...
It's a drug.
Yeah, exactly. It has the same formula as stuff that is known to work.
Get it looking like you? I.e. not sun damaged, not old, not any active acne.
I do have acne.
I think maybe
right
one
here, this
spot.
guy.
Okay, so do you get it from your GP or do you...
I got it from my GP.
Okay.
I think different GPs have different approaches to it in Australia. I think on...
GPs can't prescribe it in the UK.
Oh.
No, you have to have a dermatologist.
Wow.
It's been taken off the GP's prescribing list.
Interesting, yeah. So, yeah.
But we have an online system now called Dermatica. I think it's... Let me check the spelling of that and I'll put it up, which is basically an online service where you can have a consultation with a dermatologist.
Oh, that's so good.
To get it, which is really clever. It also means you can get things like metronidazole and steroid creams and stuff like that.
That's so good.
Because we basically in the UK have hardly any clinical dermatologists. They're really hard to go. So it's really, you have to go to your GP and get a referral, so it's a nightmare. So, you obviously have good GPs.
We don't have teledermatology yet in Australia, as far as I know. Like, I know the
It's
US
only just come here.
The US has Curology, and they've had it for like at least 5 years.
Yeah. And also, it's not difficult to get to see a dermatologist in the US. There are just so many more of them.
Yeah.
It's obviously a sexier subject.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Tret, vitamin C, and SPF.
Okay. Yes. So Tret would be a prescription. What actual brand of vitamin C do you love?
I make my own.
So I love this.
I get
you're gonna follow her, right? Because she teaches you how to make these things.
Oh yeah, I do have a recipe. So I think it's one of the few things where you can make it at home without a preservative, and it's fine because the pH is so low. It's basically like vinegar. Okay. It preserves itself, and you chuck it out after 2 or 3 weeks. And I think that's the main reason I like it, because vitamin C is so expensive most of the time. It's like $20. Well, at least $20 is like the cheap stuff for a bottle, and like I would use maybe that much. Like a third of a bottle in 3 months, which is when you're meant to chuck it out.
Yeah.
And like I can't chuck things out.
Okay.
So I would just keep using that for the next 3 years, and then it would just degrade and it would not work, and I would still be using it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I find that if you buy a giant tub of it, I buy it from iHerb, it's like $20, less than $20. I can't remember how much it is. Like $7 for a jar, which is giant, and you just mix it yourself, and then it's always fresh. You don't feel bad using it.
Send me the link and I'll put the link to the recipe.
Okay.
She'll have you all in lab coats before you know it, trust me. Who's your beauty hero? Is there a brand founder that you love or admire, or an educator that you love? Apart from that,
Apart from you?
Please.
You're
Apart
great.
from that, we mind of Stephen.
Oh yes, he's great. Stephen's amazing.
Stephen, start making videos.
Yes.
He's a formulating chemist in Canada. And he just follow him. He's funny. He's self-effacing. He just takes brands to task. He's brilliant. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I think we've done all of our questions.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Thank you so much. You must follow her on Instagram at
Labmuffinbeautyscience.
and on YouTube at.
Labmuffinbeautyscience.
There you go.
I'm very consistent.
And also it's very funny when earlier on when Michelle was Googling herself, she went, everybody's got my name, honestly. And I went, I only need to be Nadine Baggett. There's only one Nadine Baggett. She's absolutely brilliant. She's super popular on Instagram. You can ask her questions. She busts myths, but more importantly, she's a scientist who believes that skincare really works, and she knows what works and she knows what doesn't. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Nadine.
I'm now going to take her to the UK press and I'm going to introduce her to everybody, and they're all going to fangirl. She's supposed to be leaving the UK in two or 3 days' time, and I reckon we're not going to let her leave. We're going to make her become an honorary Brit. So thank you.
Thank you.